Hello, this is Dr. Rick Chambers with this edition of Health, Happiness, and Harmony Partner training videos. This week is the first one. It's based on our Book Sense podcast, and the subject of gender came up. And we've also played around with this idea of needing scaffolding. When we talk about something like gender, it would be nice to have a place to go to get an opinion on gender, or just kind of a general approach toward gender as we discuss it in other things. And I ran across this within the psychology book, Big Ideas Simply Explained, which is part of our discussion group is based on it. But here's a paragraph on Carl Jung's views on gender. Jung believes that the self has both masculine and feminine parts and is molded into becoming fully male or female by society as much as by biology. Now, Carl Jung died in the 60s, so he was writing these things long before all these conversations around gender. And I just thought that was pretty innovative and pretty insightful, and maybe even challenging, the idea that the self has both masculine and feminine parts. Last week on Book Sense, we were talking about a flower, so I went home and I said, so is a flower masculine or feminine? It has both parts in the flower. And so very much, and again, it represents the soul or the self. So it's this idea we have both. Everybody has both. For it to be molded by society, how to be masculine, how to be feminine. Biology has a say-so in that, but so does society, maybe even more of a say. When we become wholly male or female, we turn our backs on half our potential. Though we can still access this part of the self through an archetype. Another very challenging idea of losing potential by identifying with, or as we identify with one side or the other. The animus exists as the masculine component of the female personality, and the anima as the feminine attributes of the male psyche. And so last week I said a man's soul is feminine and a woman's soul is masculine, but that's not as accurate as what this is saying. Is that the animus is just the masculine component of the female personality. And then the anima is the feminine attribute of the male psyche. This is the other half. So we often talk in marriages about the other half, but it's really inside our own psychology. What if the other half is inside our own psychology? The half that was taken from us as we grew into a girl or boy. And this brings up the podcast we did on the fig tree and Sylvia Plath, with this basic insight that as we choose one lifestyle, we're also kind of abandoning all the other potential lifestyles. So even in becoming girl or boy, there's a sense of something being taken from you. These archetypes help us to understand the nature of the opposite sex because they contain the deposits of all the impressions ever made through history between men and women. This would necessarily reflect the traditional ideas of masculine and feminine because it's built up over time, generation after generation. So this is a revolutionary, few sentences. And even though it's accurate about Carl Jung's view on gender, he didn't write it in exactly these words, because by dying in the 60s, we didn't have these words, these ways of even thinking about things. So it took over 50 years of work within culture to get to the point that somebody could summarize his views in this way. And I think I've always found this to be a revolutionary way to look at gender. So I wanted to say that in some official way that kind of stays stable, that people can check with whenever we're talking about gender. It is this idea that it's like, it's not males and females. It is everybody has both. So thank you.